Welcome back. The congressional race for the 1st District is getting more and more interesting as yet another candidate, another Democrat, enters the field. State Representative Gilchrest launched her campaign for the seat currently held by John Larson about 2 weeks ago. She joins former Hartford Mayor Luke Bronin, attorney Ruth Fortune, small business owner Jack Perry, all Democrats, and Dr. Amy Chai, a Republican, attempting to replace Larson in Washington. Representative Gilchrest is joining me this morning. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So why did you decide to take this step?
I feel like there's no time to wait. We need to make change in Washington, and in order to do that, we need to elect new people.
I know our colleague Dan Harr from Connecticut Insider reported in one of his columns that you called Congressman Larson to say you were jumping into the race. Tell me about that call and why did you make it?
I made the call because I do respect the congressman and his public service, but wanted to let him know that I just can't sit back. Need to get in and push for the change we need. And it was a very respectful conversation. So
you decided to then make the leap and jump into the race. What is it about what's happening now that gives you pause and says, I need to take over this job?
It's twofold. Obviously, we're seeing the horrible things that the Trump administration is doing in this country, but additionally, there have been problems for some time in terms of affordability, people being able to access the health care they need. And I really think we need a leader in Washington who listens to people and brings their voice to the Capitol.
Do you worry, obviously you're going up against a longtime incumbent in John Larson. You also have another challenger who has a lot of name recognition, having been the former mayor of Hartford and Luke Bronin. Does that make it an uphill climb for you?
Yes, it's a race, and it's a race worth running, though. And I think if we don't have people get in who are in it for the right reasons, which is to make the change we need, to be bringing the voices of the people down to Washington, then we'll just be stuck with what we have right now, which is where the wealthy are really leading this country.
Other people have noted it, but when you ran for the legislature in 2018, you knocked off a 12-term incumbent in Andy Fleischman. So this is something that you're familiar with doing. What does it take? So if you ran that campaign, obviously a more local
Yes.
campaign, but what does it take then for you to run this and get across the finish line and knock off somebody like a John Larson?
So it takes going out and listening and learning from people, wanting to hear from them what they want in an elected official, letting them get to know me and learn about my accomplishments at the State House. And then just pushing hard until the August primary to ensure that I can get on the ballot.
Do you worry about fundraising? Because obviously Larson, having been in office for 14 terms, has a big fundraising machine already set up. Luke Bronin, 2 weeks in, announced that he had raised $800,000. In addition to a name recognition hurdle, is that another hurdle that you'd have to raise enough money to compete with them?
It is a hurdle, but unfortunately in this current system, money is what's driving politics, and I think that's a large part of the problem and why the policies we're seeing down in D.C. Are leaning towards the wealthy. And so if we don't have people getting in who are willing to work hard to raise the funds needed to get your message out there, we'll be stuck in the same place. So I'm willing to put in the work.
All right, so tell me about, you said get the message out there. So tell me about you. Tell me what your accomplishments you're proud of and how you got into politics.
Sure. So my background is social work. I was a child advocate at a sexual assault crisis center, and that motivated me to go into public policy. And so I really go out, listen, learn from people, and use that to influence public policy. I've worked on paid family leave, access to health care. Right now I'm co-chair of the Human Services Committee, and I'm doing work to protect and expand access to Medicaid. I've also expanded access to abortion care here in the state. I chair our Trafficking in Persons Council and the Endometriosis Work Group. So I have a sense of urgency to make change with the time I have, and so I've done that in the State House, and I want to do that down in Washington.
One thing that you've been talked about a lot for is you're as a chair of the reproductive rights group at the Capitol. And in a culture where that is such a hot button issue, and as you mentioned, many of the policies in Washington being pretty different from what we have here in the state, would that be a help or a hindrance if you were to make it to Washington?
I think it's a huge help at this point in our country's history. What we're seeing because of the overturning of Roe v. Wade is that in states where they have banned abortion, all of women's health is suffering and people are getting hurt. Women are actually dying. And so we need people down in Washington, myself, who can have honest conversations about why access to abortion is important and why it's needed now.
Tell me about the incumbent. Is there anything that you would point to where you would say, this is something that John Larson did that I disagree with or that he got wrong?
I think it's about leadership style. And so I think what's needed is someone in Congress who comes back to Connecticut, goes out into the community, into the 27 towns, listens to people, shares what they're working on, and is pushing for a number of policies at the same time.
Do you think there's a Democratic messaging problem in the party as a whole?
I think there's just a lack of a vision. And to me, I think government can be a force for good. I think the government should be helping people and solving problems. And so how do we share that vision with fellow Democrats, with people, and lead the country in a new direction?
What about the age issue? I asked Congressman Larson about this, and he brushed it off and said his experience speaks for itself. But when you have an incumbent who's 77, you and Mayor Bronin are both in your 40s, to have that kind of generational shift, do you think whoever would end up as a new congressman, if it were not Larson, is that an important thing for Connecticut to have somebody younger, or is that not what voters should be thinking about?
I think it's more about the experiences you've had and how that informs the policy work. And so it's not about the number, but it's about bringing in voices who understand how people are being impacted today.
And what do you, as you look at this field, do you have any thoughts about, Mayor Bronin and why people might think you would be a better, if someone was going to knock off the guy who's been in there for 14 terms, why would it be better to be you than him?
I think that as people get to know me, they'll see that my track record at the state legislature has shown that I work every single day as hard as I can to improve conditions for people, and that I will bring that work ethic down to Washington, and that's what we need right now.
What do you expect over the next, almost a year now until that primary? Will it be meeting people, getting your name out there, telling about your policies? How do you look at this campaign from here to that primary?
Yes, all of those things. My campaign is about people. And lifting up their voices. And so I'm going to be out in all the 27 towns, getting to know folks, letting them get to know me, and ideally I'll be successful come August.
Only about 30 seconds left, but as you make this introduction here on our program, is there one thing that you just like them to know about what you did in the legislature that maybe would carry forward to Washington?
I was a champion of paid family and medical leave for years, and I know that that program has been a support for folks, and those are the types of programs that I'd like to see our country move in the direction of.
All right, Representative Gilchrest from West Hartford, thank you so much for being with us here on CT25.
Thank you for having me.